Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a little bit of something new for you guys, or for most of you. So we are going to start using Lichess for our tactics training. Let's transition this so that you can see what I am talking about. Okay, so basically what we're doing in this show is for a whole hour I am going to use the tactics trainer to help you guys to learn a little bit more about tactics as well. So you can see at the bottom of my screen, or at the bottom of the board, I have done only 8 tactics. So far I have done them all correctly. Obviously, the higher our rating goes, the tougher the puzzles will become. I will, however, obviously try and explain everything, try and explain what type of tactics we are busy with. And of course, one of the big things that I always mention to everybody is that if you're doing tactics on a tactics trainer, any tactics trainer, doesn't matter if it's on any website or any place where you do tactics, always focus on getting them correctly. It's more important to get them correct than it is to get them fast. I'm not quite sure if the Lichess tactics server or the puzzles feature is time dependent. I don't think so. From what I have seen, it might not be. So in other words, that gives you even more incentive to focus much more on just getting the tactics right. Okay, so let's get right in here and start our first tactic. Actually, while on the board, I already finished this tactic, but hi Ornikar. But on the board, what happened was, how's the sound? Is everything fine, Ornikar? Because my internet seems to be a little bit all over the place. Okay, cool. Yeah, no. So in this first tactic here, White tried to be clever by playing the move Knight takes pawn, with the idea, of course, that he is now attacking your queen. And his theory was that if you take him like you're supposed to, and he takes you, apparently I can't make moves anymore, but that's fine. Hi JT. So, and after queen takes, his theory was that he could just play queen takes here. But now what he missed is that black has a discover check with the obvious attack on his queen. So a bit of a small problem there for white. If white does not play this way around, then of course after takes, if he plays queen takes here first, then you would be able to play pawn takes bishop, and then of course you win a piece as well. So this is what black missed in his attempt into trying to win a pawn. Okay, so let's do the next one. Like I said, the tactics are not extremely hard at the beginning, but of course it's more just about focusing on the different tactical themes, and you know, hopefully they will get quite a bit harder as we go along. So let's see the next one. Okay, it feels like the queen should be able to be trapped here. It's like the immediate thing that you feel here is that this queen here is quite trappable. Now the question is that true? Now of course g5 looks like the first immediate move that we would love to play, but this pawn is hanging as well. So like I say, there's no need to rush into these tactics, okay? You'd much rather just be getting them correctly. Perfect. Well, this one's already obviously, you know, the obvious looks like you should be wanting to play g5, but it's not immediately possible. Another moves that pop out immediately is an idea like bishop here with the discovered attack after you move your knight. So, interesting. Okay, so that was our initial thought, okay? But now the problem is after... Yeah, but is there no way out? You always have to make sure of all the variations, okay? So yeah, so g5 looks tempting, of course. And then if he does take, you move your king, yeah? And then rook h8 is a possibility. Is there any intermezzo moves here? Always look at any other tricks that he could try and play as well, of course. It looks fine. This pawn is quite heavily defended as well. So we don't have to worry about any diagonal issues with our king being on e7. So it does look like g5 should be perfectly fine. Is there any way for him to try and decoy our knights? Because in our variation, when the queen ends up here, the knight is very important in defending the g5 pawn. So all of that looks okay. What's the material count like? That will be fine as well. Another big thing to focus on as well in tactics is material as well. It'll tell you a lot about the position. Okay, so g5 does look like it's perfectly fine. And after king e7, the threat now is that we just play rook h8. So unfortunately, as you can see, the queen is trapped. Okay, so let's just go back quickly there. So you can see after the move king e7, there is no move for the queen to get out of this file here. And there is also no way for him to either break his queen out by trying to sacrifice on g5 or e5 or even on c5. So unfortunately, something like this doesn't work because the bishop just takes and there's nothing to stop rook h8. So yeah, so in the end, we just trap the queen. Okay, so that is trapping. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Continue, there we go. Okay, so he just took, and now his idea is maybe to go, after he takes, he wants to go knight g4, but it does seem like we should be fine after king h8, no? King g3, sorry. If queen g5 gets played, then we even have the move, do we have the move knight? No, we can play f4, and if queen g6 gets played, we can play queen e4 to defend. So it looks like we can just take the bishop. So here black was trying to get some sort of checkmate theory, which does happen a lot. But in this case, unfortunately for him, we can play f4 without the knight being able to take on without the knight being able to discover check. So look, takes, knight goes to g4, the king comes in here, which also protects that square. Now f4 gets played, and if queen here gets played, we can play queen here. All the idea is just to attack the queen so that it cannot stay in the g file and does not have a very big issue with there's a discover check though, is there not? You can discover check here though. So let's just go back real quick. Would we just move our king possibly? I guess you could just move your king as well, but where does the king go? So this is the kind of stuff that you want to be careful of. So he does threaten to go check and check. Very important to note. But it looks like possibly after queen e4, like I suggested, if he does go check here, can we just play our king? No, we can't. Then he just takes the queen as well, does he not? So it does look a little bit more tricky. If we go here, he goes here, we take back, he takes here, we takes here, and we're not actually winning, are we? So one has to make sure, I mean, the puzzle is already finished, which is sometimes, you know, a little bit funny because one has to still be careful of many, many things here. So, king to f3 doesn't work. Yeah, but you're not winning, Frankomba. You're not winning. That's not even in that variation. You're not even up material. You're not up material here. You have two pieces against a rook and a pawn. So how is this like magically winning? Tactics in general should be about winning material. Now, obviously in this case, we're probably perfectly fine, of course. It's fairly equal, I would say. But in general in tactics, you're trying to look for ways to obviously win material. So one has to look in this position to see if there is not a better move for white here. It would appear that we can just play, maybe we can play, Say what? After knight takes check, it's discover check. We take here, he takes here, buddy. Come on. I'm not as stupid as I look, okay? I still win your rook. You see, you're not looking far enough ahead and you want to think that you're clever. Don't try and be clever. Look at all the variations. So, careful. Now we have to move, and of course now he takes us, and now we take, and still we only have the two pieces versus a rook and a pawn. So again, maybe not so clever, right? don't always think that you just have the answer immediately, okay? There is threats here. F5 is possibly a good move. That makes maybe sense. Okay, so that's maybe much more clever. Because now if he goes queen here again, we can possibly play here. But he still has a check here possibly. So one has to be very careful. That does look fair though, because obviously after we move, the knight is just pinned. So that's okay. Is there any other sneaky attempts here? What if he just takes it? Because he protects his knight. We do end up a piece up though, don't we? In this variation, now we are a piece up. This is perfectly acceptable. So F5 might be a much better idea. Queen E4 doesn't actually work. So that's why I had to look at all the variations. And I will admit though, one of the things that I don't like about tactics all the time is that after this move, after F4, the puzzle stops. But the puzzle shouldn't be over yet, because white still has to play correctly after the move queen g6. So this is not a snipe at lead chess tactics. This is a snipe at tactic puzzles in general, because a lot of the tactic puzzles finish prematurely. Because in usual cases we'd like to attack the queen, but funny enough, this queen e4 move doesn't actually work so well. Yeah, fair enough. Exactly. There's so many moves. So queen e4 doesn't actually work. So yeah. So yeah, you're right. Even after queen e4, they're saying that black could maybe play f5. Correct. Okay. But it does seem okay, doesn't it? Yeah. Because we still have the threat of going check here. You can't move your king to, like, let's say, okay, obviously if the queen is being attacked, but if the queen wasn't being attacked, like in this position, let's say here, you can't move your king here because of the check. You do, again, you are, you know, obviously you do have the two pieces, but it's not by any means clearly winning. So yes. So yeah, so I'm just trying to explain that in this position, after queen g6, no, sorry, after f4, the black part or the puzzle itself says that you are correct and you can move on. But you still have to, after queen g6, you still have to know what you're going to play. And it looks like f5 is definitely the best move here. Because now, of course, if he does take here, you take his queen, and afterwards you are just up a piece because he did sacrifice on h2. So you're perfectly fine. Any other move, obviously, if the knight moves here, you can just take the queen, so that doesn't help. And what other moves does he have? If he plays queen back here again, then after e4, you will be attacking the queen again. So now the queen is obviously not able to stay in the g file. And if he does try the discovered check, something like, okay, but maybe now, okay, something like, let's say here, then you obviously just pin the knight still. If the knight goes somewhere funky, like let's say over here, then you can just move your king, let's say there, and remember that we are up a piece. So yes, we're doing some tactics today. So it's a bit of a lesson as well, etc. You know, just to try and help with tactics. So where's Mr. Fran Koba now? You know, he's all quiet now. He was all cocky about, oh geez, that's so easy. Oh, that's so easy. Not so easy. Careful, guys. Always be careful. Okay, so let's move on to the next one and see what we have here. So apparently just played rook e2. So there feels like there should be discovered attacks, right? So if we play here, if he plays queen takes, then we can play knight takes here first, check, and then afterwards take back. So we do end up winning material. One always wants to look if there's nothing better, maybe. What if, okay, so now that option is one of the options. But of course, if he moves his rook back, okay, so let me just take away the arrows. If we go here, if the rook goes back here, then he has sufficient defenders. So now we have to look for a different knight option. So now we can see if we play our knight here instead, we still have the same threat as this, but we also have the added queen d1 threat. So now if he plays his rook back, obviously the knight can just take the queen. So yes, so knight c3 is the better move. So you'll be often, this is called a discovery. It's not a discovered check, just a discovery. You discover that if you move the knight, your queen and rook will be attacking his queen, okay? And he only has one defender. Okay, now all that's left to figure out is where does your knight go? Your knight needs to attack something. Okay, so we can immediately see that the knight has two options of attacking this rook, which would also be a check. So Let's play knight c3 just to show you the example, and obviously we can just win material now. So that is generally the objective of all tactics, is you want to win material. If you end up equal at the end of a tactic, then either you were very far behind and you were catching up, or of course something is wrong with your analysis, because in general with tactics you are going to want to win material. Okay, so here we win an exchange. It's not, you know, earth-shattering, but it should be enough to play for a win. Okay, so that was a discovery. Let's check out the next one. Okay, so here immediately it feels like there should be some back rank threats. Looks very, very tempting, doesn't it? Okay, so let's see what happens here. So immediately ideas like rook here happens because he cannot take you because of mate. Okay, so the back rank is very weak here. That is our game plan here. And if he plays, okay, maybe he plays rook f1, and then what do we have then? Oh, thanks for the follow, and welcome to the show. So let's see. I mean, let's not be hasty once again. One never wants to be hasty in these positions. Okay, there is possibly the idea. Well, I mean, you know, I have to pick events as well, Matkun. So so I was trying to also pick events that where the organizers help me as well. Okay, so the other objective here could also be, maybe we could play rook here with the obvious threat of going rook here check and checkmating. Okay. Well, again, queen d3 looks very tempting. Yes, agreed. We can just move the rook. So we need to find a way to see if we can't sneak our way into really putting pressure on the back rank. So someone was suggesting the move queen d3. Sorry, someone was suggesting the move queen d3, but after rook f1 you don't really have anything. Okay, not yet anyway. So yes, hello Sandy and welcome. Yeah, come join us in the chat. So we're doing a bit of tactics. We're just, you know, I'm trying to use the Lichess Tactics or Puzzles Trainer and showing you guys what type of tactics that you can expect to get, obviously in the puzzles training and in your own games. The easy thing about tactics when you're practicing tactics like this is that obviously you know you're looking for a tactic. The trick is that when you're playing in a chess game, you don't always know there's a tactic, so you always have to be vigilant. But when you're doing thousands and thousands of tactics like this, it obviously just it really helps your awareness of what is going on in your own games. Okay, so I'm looking at possibly the idea here because, well, I mean, it doesn't look like it does anything as of yet, does it? Interesting. Now we might want to look at any crazy sacrifices. Rook takes f2 doesn't look like it actually does anything. So not so happy about that. I have a very cool idea. How about, hello Cerebral. Thanks for the follow, guys. So yeah, so here now, okay, so rook e8, if he plays rook f1, we might have the immediate idea of playing queen here even, because he cannot take because it will be checkmate. Okay, now of course he can save his pieces by just playing something like, let's say, g3, so that might save him for now. We also have, I apparently have new updates. We also have the idea of obviously still playing rook e1 afterwards, but then maybe he can play queen c4 to protect himself. Exactly. Thank you, Matcom. Because you realize that white is up a bunch of pawns, you realize that this is going to have to be probably some sort of checkmate. That's basically what you're looking for here, is that you want to checkmate your opponent. Another thing that quickly comes to mind here, by the way, is play maybe, yes. Okay, maybe it's strong, yeah, but I don't think it's enough to play rook takes f2. So maybe we can play rook to f8. Now we know he can't play the f pawn. The only way to defend the pawn is to play rook f2, and then we can play rook takes here. If he plays here, we could have queen. Do we have anything? It looks like we should have something, but we don't. We, funny enough, do not have anything. Interesting. So that looked promising. but it might not be enough. Actually, no, it's not, Philly. It's not important to get puzzles quickly. It is not important at all. Especially on something like Lichess, where you don't, where it's not time-based. On a lot of tactics trainers, of course, it's time-based. So the quicker you get them, the more rating you get. Okay? But here is one thing to know about tactics on any website. If you get it correctly, even if you take an hour to get a tactic correctly, you will not lose rating. And it's more important not to lose rating and to get them correctly, because of course getting them correctly is very good for your chess. So yeah, so we're still thinking about, okay, I mean rook f2 does look very, very possible. Okay, but Matkun, after that variation, queen check, he can just put his rook back again. He can put his rook back again. Oh, we wanted to take the other way around. Okay, yes. So rook f8, we played this rook takes, yes? Is that what you're saying? So yeah, so rook f8 was one of the very big candidate moves that we were looking at. So you're right. Because now if I take, I threaten mate, If you take back, queen b1 check, and then it's mate. So yeah, so rook f8 is the correct move. So as you can see here, it's all about this square. Okay? So it's all about this square. Okay, so the guy decides not to defend the f2 pawn. Don't we just take rook takes f2 now? So of course, again, you also have to look at other options. Hi, Andre. You also have to look at other options here. That white did not have to play rook f1. But if white did play rook f1, then rook here would have been taken. Would have taken. So in this position, do we not just play rook takes here now? I mean, it looks pretty devastating, does it not? If he plays g3, then after rook takes h2, you have this mate threat. So it just looks pretty disgusting, doesn't it? And rook takes h2, or is there anything quicker we can do here? We don't want to win. We can play here as well, by the way. If we take, we can play rook check here, which also just wins. But the move rook takes h2 looks very tempting as well, does it not? So yeah, so we have plenty of options. Now this puzzle I like, because you still have to keep going. You have to keep going. It's not immediately over. You have to keep going. I do think that we can just play rook g2, right? Yeah, because we just forked the king and queen in the end. Okay, so it ends up just being a fork. Okay, so and that's that. That's all she wrote. So now you end up having a queen. So let's just go back a little bit. I just want to show the variation, of course, if he does play rook f1. So if he plays rook f1, I can make moves, right? Sorry, let me just go all the way. If he plays rook f1, then we have rook 2 takes f2. Now we're threatening mate, and we're threatening mate. If he takes back, you have the final back rank idea now with check, and the only way, of course, is, well, if he wants to prolong the agony, then that is checkmate. Okay, cool. So, and obviously there's no other way to stop this from happening, is there? You cannot play f3, let's say, because if you do, it's still checkmate. Now it unleashes this rook. Cool. So that is the tactic there. So this tactic ending up into a fork. Okay. So this is all about the back rank, the second rank, and eventually the fork on c2. There you go. So that is the eventual trick. Okay. So let's go on to the next one. This one is for white to play. It almost feels like white could possibly mate, right? We can obviously just fork him. So, I mean, some of these puzzles obviously are not hard, okay? So, we can just win the piece. And it looks like that might just be the easiest way to go. There is no trick. Or is there a trick? No, there is no trick of him maybe playing, let's say, king g6 and then being able to pin your piece, because you can just play check and move out of the pin. So yeah, so rook f7 seems like the fairly easy option here. So we don't have to think about that one much. It's a simple fork. And we just take the piece. You see, okay, wait. You see, there might be a mate even here, right? So why do we not take the piece? They don't want us to take the piece. It's actually incorrect. Haha. You see? So maybe now we have to look for a little bit more here. Maybe first we play knight check here and then we take the piece. So let's look. Knight f6 first and then we take the piece, right? There we go. So you don't want to lose this pawn. Okay, which kind of makes sense because of course in the end you are no, I didn't have the at the next move. Now I have just the Loner Druid obviously for me now, yeah, for the Lichess, yes. So yeah, so we want to save the pawn immediately. So, you know, sometimes again, one has to be a little bit just not too hasty. Obviously it looks fine to just win the piece here, but you can save your pawn as well and then win the piece. Okay, so important. So that's why I say never be hasty about tactics, because there now we lose rating. You know, rather get them correctly and not lose rating on it. You know what I'm saying? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Ooh. Okay, let's quickly see. Knight just went to e5, right? Okay, so there is a fork here immediately if we look at it. No, but I can see immediately anyway. I can see, no, it's just the fact that you are going to have only a knight versus 2 pawns in that puzzle, and it's you know, if you end up losing your f2 pawn, then the chances are very, very, very realistic for a draw for black in that position. So that's why. Okay, so here we have the immediate just threat of rook c2. I mean, is there any intermezzos? Is there any moves that he's going to play that might shock us? He could play queen b3 to attack the f7 square, but it doesn't really do anything. After we take his piece, queen takes and we just move back. I mean, it didn't really achieve much, did he? So it seems like it's perfectly fine to play rook c2. His queen is hanging, so he has to pretty much move his queen. So I don't see any other option. If he plays, like I say, if you play here, if he plays here, you can just take it. Because if he plays here, your king just moves and there is no real threat, is there? So, yeah, no, I hate the computer. I don't ask the computer at all. So yes, it's more because it's also very intuitive for your own chess as well. If you want to improve, then don't use computers, guys. Okay, so rook c2 looks like the logical move here. We can just take. Again, apparently that's wrong. But why? Why can't we just take the piece? I don't care about queen takes f2. You see, so the puzzles are trying to trick us a little bit. Okay, so I assume all he wants us to do is first just take the knight and then you can take the bishop. Okay, fine. That is slightly better. I am being hasty now as well, not really looking too deep. Okay, so yeah, and this is what happens when you are too hasty. Okay. Yeah, of course, an engine can be useful, but I would say for a 2000 plus player, an engine is useful. Because for anything lower than that, it becomes a problem of you don't even really know. Oh, apparently we're supposed to still play here. Anything lower than 2000, you don't necessarily always understand all the moves that the opponent is trying to make. And that's an issue. Okay, so here, can we just play queen d5, knight d5? The idea, obviously, the threat here for white is that he is threatening to play here. And, of course, he might even be threatening maybe there. I don't even know, whatever. We could also possibly play... Well, I mean, knight d5 looks perfectly fine. Well, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Yeah, if it's obvious positions, you know what I'm saying? Like in this position, you know it's a tactical position, then the computer can show you exactly what to do, fine. But you know what I mean? When it's a strategical position or a positional position, then you're not going to understand what the computer is trying to do with some really, really, tricky maneuvering moves and stuff like that. If you don't understand what the computer is doing, then what a lot of players do is that they just become like robots and they just play the computer moves because the computer says it should be played. And that's a very, very slippery slope. So I assume knight d5 here just stops everything. It blocks, it attacks the queen, it should save everything. So knight to d5, right? Yeah, queen goes here. I don't know why he would trade off, but that's fine. Okay, cool. So let's go on to the next one. So a little bit hasty on the last two tactics. Sneaky, sneaky. So immediate ideas of checks here pops into my mind, of course. We could also play rook here immediately, which does look tasty. But why don't we just take back the piece? Let's see. Okay, I see. So yeah, if we play rook d8, we have the threat. Do we have a threat? Doesn't look like we have one. So immediately in this position, one wants to look at why can you not just take the material? Ha! So if you rook takes, then rook takes, pawn takes, and queen takes. So that doesn't exactly really help us, does it? Interesting. So knight takes c3 obviously is not a threat. It doesn't actually do anything. Knight there doesn't do anything. We could maybe possibly play this rook here. Now, if he plays bishop here, then we can take check, because the bishop cannot take back. Queen, 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 queen takes, takes, takes. But that doesn't do anything, does it? Yeah, no, rook takes does not work, because then he just takes your rook first, and of course you don't actually defend anything. So yeah, so we have to look at other options here as well. How does knight f4 help you? He just takes it with his bishop. That's a good question. Is there only car 2? So knight c3 doesn't do anything. You can also just take it. Did we miss any intermezzos here? Yeah, so if rook takes, and then knight f4 is a possibility, yeah? So we have to change your move order. So sometimes when you see an idea, what you can do is you can change your move order. Okay, so what he is suggesting is that we play rook takes, which then defends the knight. Okay, and then if he plays rook takes, we can finally actually play knight f4, because now, of course, we have the double attack. But he can just play, okay, it doesn't matter, he just loses his queen anyway, does he not? Yeah. So of course, because there's no way for him to check you anywhere and win any material back, so if the queen moves, we'll take with a pawn protecting the knight. So that is one of the ways one can try. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't read it. Oh, okay. Just reading what the people are saying. So yeah, so if we play rook takes, then knight f4 afterwards, because then the knight is not being attacked by the bishop that was on e5. So have a look at the variation. If we play rook takes, and then knight e4. And now, of course, we still have the double attack here. We still have this attack, and we still had the attack there. I'm not quite sure why he would play there. We can just take it. Can we not just take this rook for free? So yeah. Okay, so that is that one. Like I say, the puzzles are not time dependent. So you can take your time on these puzzles. It's much more important to get them correctly than it is to get them quickly, guys. I always say that to all my students as well. So this was a discovered attack. Once again, another discovered attack type of idea. Oh no, this was just a double attack. Sorry. This is a double attack. So after we defend, he takes, we have a double attack now. Because the knight was under fire, so we move the knight, and it now attacks the queen. And of course, our pawn still attacks his rook. There we go. Yeah, and this is the trick, you see, Matkin, is that you have to be careful. You have to really think about these things. And you know, if you really work hard on your puzzles, then of course it really starts translating into your chess games as well. Then when the tactics arise in your games, you find them like instantly. So yes, so again, it's more important to get them correctly, because you will get much better at tactics in your own games as well. T-E-L, okay, is it Teolite? Teolite. I'm just talking about everybody in general. I don't know if Teolite is talking to me or not. Teolite, if you're asking me, just state so. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So that was a double attack. That was something a little bit new. Okay, so quick. It does look like we could possibly have a fork somewhere, right? So queen here, because we want to protect against this idea, right? So do we have the option here? Queen there, if he plays knight, then we can obviously just... No, we can't. Tempting. Oh, streamer, yeah. TO Light, I literally haven't played a tournament in 3 years either. But I was still climbing at that time, and my rating currently is 2105, 2105. But I mean, I have been working at my chess quite a bit, so I feel like I should be quite a bit stronger than that. I suspect I'd be 2250 to 2300 FIDE strength. Next year I will start obviously competing again in international events and start working on obviously first trying to get the international master title, and then hopefully in 2019 I'll focus on getting the GM title. Okay, so g3 is my only problem with queen g4, because if we did play queen g4 and he played knight f3, then we could possibly play e4. So this is the idea. Now, of course, we can change the move order. Okay, so you saw my idea immediately. My idea is to play e4. Now, if we play e4 immediately and he plays... Okay, so let me just change this. So if we play e4 immediately and he takes, then we can play queen here, because now we have a simple fork. Okay, and there's no real way for him to get out of it. The knight can't move to defend the bishop, and the bishop cannot move to defend the knight. So e4 immediately is the more threatening move. And now queen g4. There we go. And we just take the piece, of course. So that's it. Perfect. Okay. So immediately you saw the idea of the knight hanging. This is actually something... Oh, thanks for the follow, guys. This is something that I'd like to also mention about tactics a lot as well. The first thing you want to look at in a tactical position, or something that should pop out all the time, even in your games, is that when a piece is undefended, you can easily get tactics in. Okay, so pieces that are undefended lead to tactics. So we just needed to find the right move order to exploit the fact that the bishop on h4 is hanging. Oh, don't worry, Matkun. Believe me, some days tactics can just kick your butt, man. Because you know what I'm saying? Like some days you're just like drained, like death, okay? But that's why I always say also, just when you do tactics every day, the problem is sometimes you're tired. Sometimes you just, you know, you don't feel like it. But working is important every day if you want to improve your game. And take your time. Just take your time. It's much better to spend an hour doing quality work than it is to spend 5 hours doing just random nonsense that doesn't matter. Okay, cool. Let's see the next one. Let's see how high we can go. That's our game plan here. Okay, so immediately one wants to look at some mate threats here. Is there an immediate threat? Mate somewhere, mate. Ooh, tempting. Well, actually, I'm taking quite slow, Ornikar, because I am trying to just get them nice and correct, of course. Okay, so, I mean, this looks so beautiful, doesn't it? Okay, it feels like there should be something immediate. I mean, okay, unfortunately we don't have any queen takes h7 cool ideas with a rook going, you know, like something like this would have been lovely if we had like a rook here, let's say, because then check and checkmate would be pretty cool. But we don't have that option, okay? Now, obviously, if we, you know, the immediate move that pops out is queen here, but then he has this, so that's too slow. It's just too slow. So what about we just play... Can we play something like bishop takes? Now, if pawn takes... Ooh. Okay, we can win material. We can win a pawn this way. Can we not? There might even be mate threats, because remember now, if the f-pawn is gone, there will be checks on this square as well. So... let's not be hasty. Once again, let's not be hasty here. Yeah, of course, queen takes c5 could just win a piece. So, and this is the problem also with tactics as well. You know, you immediately look if there are mates, if there are cool ideas, but sometimes it's as simple as just taking a piece and being happy with the material that you did win. Because if we look at the material currently, we can see, sorry about that, we can see that it's equal on pawns, okay? And of course, it is equal on pieces exactly as well. Okay, we have 2 bishops, he has 2 bishops, we have 2 rooks, he has 2 rooks, and queen, queen. Okay, so if we want a piece, of course, then we are tactically better. Okay, so, you know, we're looking for all these cool ideas, but it doesn't look like there is anything immediate. So we can just take the piece. So, queen takes. Looks perfectly fine, doesn't it? Perfect. And that was that. Okay, so yes, so yeah, exactly. Bishop takes g6 looks like a really cool move, of course, but I can't see that it actually wins on the spot. So you can just take the piece. It's a free piece. You know what I mean? Why complicate matters for yourself when you can just win with basic piece grabs, okay? Okay, next one. Let's see if we get a bit more complicated here. Okay, so there's immediately some mate ideas. We also have this. We could possibly just take the rook. One has to look if there's not any mates or obviously or anything like that, but we could just take the rook as well. If he goes check, we move our king to, I am not quite sure where. Yes, the queen was hanging. Yeah, that is exactly correct, Ornikar. So yeah, so you know, in that position, it looked like a very promising attack, but in the end, you know, you can't break through, so just take the material. So here, so here, obviously, it looks like we can just take the rook. I don't see why we cannot take the rook. It doesn't look like rook g5 is much of a real threat. We can just play like, let's say, king to f6. So it doesn't look like there's anything we really have to stress about. Now, we could also play an intermezzo here, guys. It might be slightly better to play check first and then take the rook. Okay. Because then the move pawn takes h4 is not in the position. Not that it really matters, once again, I have to admit, but we do want to look at any and all options. So it looks like we can just take it, right? I mean, h3 also definitely is a possibility, of course. But you know, the question is his queen, is the current position better this way, or is it better if we play h3 first? I get the feeling that the tactic will want you to take the rook. So it's a tricky question. Okay, sorry. Yeah, but I mean, this is the point, Teolite, because you know, taking the rook is simple. Okay, we can just take the rook. Okay, of course, but it's not necessarily the actual best move. Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem, because the point is, what they're trying to point out here is that if you take the rook, he goes here check, we go, let's say maybe king here, right? Then what? Then maybe we go, then maybe he plays pawn takes here, sorry, or he can maybe play, you know, there's so much to calculate here. So h3 might just be the better move, because then the rook on f2 on g5 will be hanging, and f4 is not a possibility because of queen checks. So yes. Yes, I agree. If this was a speed game chess as well, you would just take the rook, right? I mean, whatever. Who gives a crud? You would just take it, wouldn't it? So I agree with you that you would just take it, okay. But I get the feeling that, you see, so it is wrong. So you can just take the piece, okay. So we can just take it, okay. But I just wanted to show you why. Okay, so we can just take the piece, and off the queen here, it seems probably that we can just play f6 or move the king, right? So we can literally just take the rook, but this is why I wanted to play h3 first, by the way, because if we played h3, I guess it changes. It doesn't change anything, does it? So he still has this idea now. So this is now his idea, okay? So that's the plan here. So they're just asking you, how are you going to deal with this issue? Is it really an issue? Can we just move our king? We could just move our king as well. King. Okay, well, where does the king go? Okay, so now you want to play h3, but why? Then he goes king h2. I think it's the same as in this position. Why would you play h3? What does it do? He's just going to go king to h2 anyway, which doesn't exactly help you at all. Okay? Well, Matt couldn't, no, sorry, Andre, the point in this puzzle, okay, the previous puzzle, I agree with you. The previous puzzle, you just win a piece or whatever. Here, they still want you to note how you're going to deal with this problem. Okay, you cannot play king f8 because check out that move. Okay, I'll show that just now at the end of the variation as well. Now, if you go f6, he can still play rook here. So if you go f6, he can still play rook here, check. Not that I think it does much, but, you know, we have to look at it, don't we? Then, well, it does, because then queen check here, and there's mate ideas. So f6 doesn't work. Ooh, sorry. Now, he does have a check. It's a double check, isn't it? So we have to be careful of the double check, don't we? Yeah, now rook h8 unfortunately fails to rook check here, right? Because then if you go king, let's say here, then the queen can take you on h8. So that doesn't happen. I don't want to open up an analysis board, it's fine. So yeah, so we're gonna have to move our king in the end here. Now there's two options. There's king here and king here. Okay? If we go king, let's say if we go king here, then where can he check? He can't check on any of the white squares, and his rook doesn't have any checks. Okay. But if you go king h6, he might have this check, which changes matters. So it looks like king g6 is the best option here, because then he has no actual checks. He can't check with the rook anywhere. It doesn't exist. And the queen cannot check anywhere. Thanks for the follow, guys. So yeah, so king g6 looks very tempting. Is there any moves he can play after that to try and trap your king? Nah, it doesn't look like it. So king g6 I would like to predict. There we go. Now, of course, he plays queen here with the idea of here. So now it looks like f6 should be fine. Yeah? So now if we play f6, we stop all the checks on here. And if he goes queen here check, then we can just go king back here and there's no more checks either. No, maybe there is a check here. So, pause. Let's pause. Okay, so queen check is the threat now. Can we defend the square? What about we just go back queen g4 now again? Is that possible? Because of course it just defends the check all over the show. If he goes check, you can just go back. Exactly. There's so many tricks here. Okay, so that's why the puzzle is actually not as clean and clear as you thought, Andre. Andre was like, no, I can't see what we're learning here. You still have to get your king out of this mating net here. And that is the problem. So queen g4 is an option. It is an option, but I am looking at, is there any checks? What if he plays queen check there afterwards? Okay. Then we can come back here probably, right? Because he still has no checks with the rook. And if he goes queen here, we can play f6 now, because now there's no discovered check. You know, you don't lose your queen defends g5 anyway. Okay. So queen g4 looks like it could be the correct move here. Okay. And then, of course, we just threatened to take the pawn on d6. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, puzzles is not always that easy. And that's why even in that previous position, you're looking for all this stuff. And then you realize, okay, but you can just win the bishop on c5 for free. And it's perfectly fine. So queen g4 here looks very tempting. I could be wrong, though. Yeah, so queen g4 is correct. So we have to defend this square with the queen. And now, like I said, if he goes queen check here, we can go queen back. If he goes queen back here, we can play f6. And we are perfectly fine now because the queen defends the square. So there is no more issues here. Okay. So that was not as easy as we would have liked. Okay, what I wanted to show a variation, right? I wanted to show Oh, I wanted to show if you play f6, okay, then check here happens. That's a problem because it's now obviously a check. Although maybe there's a way out. Okay, but maybe not, right? If you go here, of course, then you get mated, or you lose your queen. If you go king here to protect the pawn, now we can go check here again, and you can see that there is a mate here. So that is the problem. So, oh, you wanted to show the rook e8 variation as well, right? What did I say? I said, oh, king here. Yeah, check out this, king f8. But now the problem is this really sharp move here. So check out rook e8 check. If you take, it's mate. Sorry, it's mate. And if you take with the rook, it's still mate. So just so you see the variations here. So you couldn't go king f8. No, to be honest, let me just go back. Okay, so here, right? Okay, I don't think that there is an issue with the move. It just doesn't really change the position, I don't think. I don't think it changes anything, Ornikar. That's all. It doesn't change anything. Yeah, this was an interesting puzzle in the end. We all thought, oh, it's so easy. You just take the, you know what I mean? But it's not so easy. So yeah, welcome, Bryden. I don't think I have seen your name in the chat yet, so welcome. Also, Spilsdom. So I haven't seen that name either. So welcome, and thanks for the follow, guys. Okay, so it doesn't change anything in the position, Ornikar. The same stuff happens, it looks like. You know what I mean? Like you have the same setup here. So why not just take the rook? I think that's the idea. Yeah, Bryden, like I keep on saying, take your time with the puzzles. It's more important to get them right than it is to get them quickly, okay? Yeah, you probably would. I do agree, Andre. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next one. Don't have that much time left, about another 10 minutes or so. Okay, so here he is now forking our piece. But, of course, we do have a defensive move, and we could just put thanks for the follow, dudes. We can obviously just play knight c3 and defend the fork. That is the obvious move, because nothing else... Oh, wow. Sorry, I'm playing too quickly again. We can obviously just play queen here, because he cannot take because of the fork. Sorry. So, again, there I was being too quick. You see what I did there, Bryden? I was being too quick about it. I thought we could just play the knight move, no issues, and you're perfectly happy. Okay, but... there is a nicer idea with the idea of queen d2, or maybe even bishop d2. We could possibly even play bishop d2, but queen d2 looks a little bit more logical, huh? No, also wrong. So they want us to play bishop d2. So bishop d2, right? Ah, come on. Bishop d2 or b4? Everything is wrong. b4 is the only correct move. No, b4 apparently. Okay, so there you can see would not have been generated. Sorry, what? I'm pretty sure it changes things. What are you talking about, Ornikar? Well, I mean, okay, we're not up any material. So in this position, of course, the reason why you want to play b4 is because now you can just take the piece because he's pinned. Okay, so basically you want to attack the queen. You don't want to use the bishop because the bishop wants to stay here. You don't want to use your knight to block because your knight wants to keep an eye on that. And you don't want to use your queen because he trades off and it's equal. Okay, so again, what we had to see in the puzzle... is that the material is equal. So a quick count, just a quick head count, shows us that we have the exact same material. Okay? So if we look at it all, we have the exact same material. Very important to note, which means we actually want to win material. So, you know, blocking and whatever doesn't actually do anything. So, thanks for the follow. So b4 attacks the queen. Okay, the queen cannot take it because of the obvious knight defending. The queen cannot take the bishop because of the fork. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet defense there. So the queen has to go back to d8. And after that, you can just take the knight. Because, of course, this knight is pinned. So a very clever little tactic. It's actually quite a cute one. Okay. And again, I was being too hasty there. I didn't count the material. First of all, very important, Okay, so I just thought, oh, we can just save our bishop with knight c3. But we're not looking to save the bishop. We're looking to win material because we're not up any material. So there we go. And of course, then you have to find b4. Okay, let's continue. Let's have a couple of minutes more. So the king just played here. So we can just take the knight, right? So that one seems simple because this square is defended and so is this one. So there's no mate threats. So we can just take the knight. So they just want to show you that obviously there is a defense against all the threats. Now he's attacking our pawn and he's attacking here. So it's not entirely just over. Sorry, let me make it red. It's prettier when it's red. So he is threatening a few things. Okay. So how are we going to deal with this? How do we plan on dealing with that threat? I guess we could just play our rook somewhere, but where? So the question is, where does the rook go? If we do play our... there is another idea. We could possibly just play queen g5. We can't save this pawn, but we have to stop this threat here. Yeah, okay. Actually, Onikar, I hate defensive puzzles. But the point is that defensive puzzles happen a lot in your games. You have to find the correct defense. So yes, you should actually love defensive puzzles because it teaches you to obviously find the accurate defensive moves. So queen g5. If we play queen g5, then we defend against this threat here. Let's make it red. So we defend against that threat. And if he goes check, of course, is there... Now we got to be careful because he does have mate threats though, doesn't he? So that doesn't help. Ouch. Bishop move might be better because then maybe your king can run out. Yeah, maybe you're right. So what if we play... no, but you can't move bishop, of course, because of the mate, right? Okay, so f8. So you can't, hi all the new guys, Philly US and Rosa, hello guys, welcome to the stream. I will be doing tactics probably daily from now on as well. You guys can check in the schedule, just scroll down and you can see my schedule for everything, okay. I will be doing my first Blitz Arena in about a little bit over 30 minutes. So I'll be doing a lot of streaming obviously on Lichess now as well. So welcome to everybody and, you know, thank you so much for following. So we have to be careful of a lot of things here. So don't be hasty. Okay. Now we realize that we have to worry about the back rank. Okay, the back rank is a slight issue. So what if don't like it. Yeah, I'm gonna do the Blitz Arena. Yeah, I think it's a 5-minute one at 6 p.m. Well, it's 6 p.m. for me. So yeah, really 42 viewers. Hi guys, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being here. That's like a new record. We're gonna get to the 300 marker. If you guys haven't followed yet, please do. Thank you. You see, all you have to do is beg. You know, you have to keep Lord Raiden working, guys. Please, you have to keep him working. Okay, so I'm still thinking, how are we going to deal with all the threats? Now, bishop g7 is not a possibility either. You can see my... Oh, you can't see my nickname anywhere, is it? Well, okay, at the bottom of my... You know, just underneath me, you can see there's a Twitter and there's a Lichess. That's the Lichess. It's Loner Druid, guys. So now, okay, I won't lie to you. I am a little stressed in this position. This position does not look as nice. Okay, let's defend this correctly, guys. Our rook is useless. We can't move the rook anywhere. The rook can't go here. The rook can't go here. The rook can't go here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to not defend, but we're going to defend offensively. So here's the idea. We defend the pawn. Okay, sorry. We defend the pawn pawn, but also attack his rook. So if he goes here, it doesn't work. He takes with the check, doesn't he? Yeah, we might. I mean, it's very, very utterly boring, isn't it? Not the easiest of puzzles ever. Why do you have to defend d6? We have to defend d8, guys. IAMD, welcome to the stream. I haven't seen your name yet. And Anna. So hi, Anna. I mean, obviously, I've seen your name now a couple of times, which is cool. But yeah, it's Loner Druid. Yeah, so that is the name. Oh, thanks, Ornikar, for slapping that one in there. So the queen d8 is one of our biggest problems. Okay, that is one of the problems that you want to be careful of for the most part. Okay. And you also have to be, someone's challenging me, guys, come on. You also have to be careful, obviously. Like I said, if you want to play something like queen here, he goes check. Sorry, he goes check. And now if you can move your king up, he takes with a check, which is a problem. Okay. So a lot of little small issues. No, queen e2 doesn't work. So, okay, so if we play, why would we play queen b4? Queen b4 doesn't defend anything. And we go check here, and now you're in big trouble. You lose your rook. Okay. So we have to be very, very careful here. Okay. We have to go in Super Saiyan mode now, guys. Super Saiyan mode is required. Check. King goes there. Check. That's a mate. That doesn't help. What? Well, no, because if you play queen a5 to protect the rook, then this is the problem. Check. And now where does your king go? Okay, if you go king up, I go back check here, and then you get mated. Okay, you don't get mated, but I mean, you can just check you up and down the whole time. So it's a small problem, right? Queen g5 I also found didn't work. Queen g5 runs into check. And now what? Now what do you play? I didn't like, what was the variation I didn't like? Queen g5, check. Okay, maybe you could go king here then. Ah, maybe we could go king there. I didn't like that we have to go backwards, of course. But king g7 afterwards? Then he doesn't have any checks, does he? That looks perfectly okay. So, I mean, originally I did say queen g5, king g5, obviously, quite a long time ago. No, king h8 doesn't work because he still has this check if you go king h8, okay. So queen g5 was my original idea. Why didn't I like it? I felt like there was a move in between there. Queen takes e6. Okay, so queen g5. Queen takes e6. And then king here is probably most important. Now he doesn't have any checks, does he? No. Looks like we're safe. So yeah, so that is what we had to find. That is exactly what we had to find. Queen e2 runs into queen d8. I'll show all the variations. Okay. Oh, thanks for the follow. So queen g5 should be correct, yes, because king g7 and you're safe. Now I'll show all the variations to you guys. Okay. Queen e2 doesn't work because he just goes check here, and now you lose your rook with a check. You see what I mean? So you can't take him because you're in check. Okay. Everything else, if you try and protect the rook, let's say, then he goes queen check here, and now you have to be careful. You can't go in the back rank because of check here, and then obviously check f8 mate, so you can't go here because of check there and mate. Come on, and mate. You can't go king g7 because then check here, and it's a draw in the end because you just have to go back up and down the whole time. So that doesn't defend that. Okay. And you can't move your rook anywhere. The rook can't go here because of check, losing the rook. You can't go rook here because of check, losing the rook. So you can't move your rook anywhere. And if your rook goes here, then of course there's mate here. King goes here, check, and mate. So there's a lot of mate threats that you have to be extremely careful for. Okay. So yeah, so queen g5, it was important to note that we can play king g7 because there's no more checks. Sorry, this queen can't. Sorry, go back. This queen can't check anywhere. Luckily, there's no checks. Okay, and of course we are protecting the f6 square, so we should be perfectly fine here. We still have to untangle, but we should be fine. Okay, let's do one more before I finish. Quite a tricky puzzle. I like it. I like it a lot. This feels like you should just be able to trap the queen, right? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Where does the queenie go? If we just go rook here. The queen has no escape squares. The queen can't go anywhere here. Okay, so let's highlight all the squares. Can't go there, can't go there, can't go there, can't go there, can't go here, can't go here. Okay, perfect. And the queen cannot take here. That's, well, let's make it red. Can't do that. Can't do that. Can't do that because of the bishop. Can't do that because of the rook. Can't take the rook because of the knight. And can't go here. There we go. So, problem solved. Simple tactic of just trapping. Okay. Rook a3. And that's it. So he takes, of course, we just take. Perfect. So a fairly easy one to end us off. I didn't even break the 2300 marker. Bad Loner Druid. Bad Loner Druid. Okay. So obviously, like I keep on telling you, hi, not fast, and welcome to the stream. Thank you guys all so much for all the extra follows so far. I am going to be playing my first Blitz Arena in 30 minutes. So do come and tune in and watch me go down. I've been playing really bad Blitz the last couple of days, so we'll have to see how that goes. Okay, thanks guys. I'll see you guys in a little while.